Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Elevate Your Life podcast. We are doing episode number 117 today, Cheryl.
Wow. We're getting up there.
Leadership Thursday. Yes, we are.
Yeah. And I love Leadership Thursday.
Oh, yeah. It's the best day of the week. And
Yeah.
we're talking about the Big Mo today, Cheryl.
I like that.
The
I
Big
like
Mo.
that. I think that it is one of my favorite things to talk about, learn about.
It's
I
definitely my favorite thing to have in life. Because when you got it, life is just awesome. When you don't,
Yeah.
not so good.
That's right.
So what's the Big Mo? People are wondering, like, okay, what are these people all excited about?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's the what it really comes down to, Paul, is it is the leader's best friend.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is, I don't know. I always think about momentum and how it can literally fix anything or most things, right? Most things. And so I love that. And when we talked last time about the law of victory, I think when you have momentum, then victory is right there with you.
Yeah, and it kind of work hand in hand as you get small wins. We talked about small wins last week. Small wins get you to victory, but a bunch of victories in a row. I always look back at the New England Patriots over the past 20 years. I mean, they started winning a few games, then they started being victorious and winning Super Bowls, and then the momentum carried them through that they just got better and better and better. So I think really when people ask, well, how do you create momentum? Because everyone wants it. It starts with the small wins.
Yeah, it really does. Small wins, and I love too that it's the great exaggerator. Like everything is exaggerated with momentum, and I think that's so funny because when I very first read that, I was like, oh, everything's the great exaggerator, or momentum's the great exaggerator. Yes, I think people are a lot happier when momentum is happening, right? In your business, right? Is what I'm talking about. But yeah, and I think it is so, I think it's so important to work towards that and never quit, even if it's taking you a while to get into momentum.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when you got momentum going for you, you just look like a superstar.
Yeah.
And I remember years and years ago, we were building our coaching business, and I was talking to this guy, and we in the beginning we were struggling, in the very, very beginning, just getting things going. And then all of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, but over some time, volumes, sales were going up like crazy. I mean, $20,000-$30,000 extra a week. I mean, it was just like boom, 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 crazy amounts of increase. So I called this one guy, one of my leaders, and I said, hey, congratulations on all your success. This is unbelievable. What are you doing different? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, I don't know. When you have that much, increase in sales and your business is going off, your team's going, and you're able to say, I don't know what's going on. That's what we're talking about, the great exaggerator. Like, you can't explain how the money is just rolling in. The sales are just rolling in. I mean, everything's just going so fantastic. You're like living in La La Land. And, but a lot of other people, you can see this in sports all the time. Basketball's a great example because it's kind of high scoring. So you can see teams going on a 10-0 streak. The last 10, they scored 10 points in a row, and it's like the other team's falling apart. But then they call a timeout. And what does the timeout do? It interrupts the momentum of the other team. Right. Things are getting crazy, and they're not doing anything to come over to the sidelines and come up with some unbelievable play. They're just trying to stop the other team from getting a 20-0 run.
Yeah, to stop the momentum.
And sure enough, they come back, and then it goes the other way. The other team goes on a 10-0 run.
Yeah, my favorite thing is in a tennis match to strive for the momentum, because I really believe that whoever can get that momentum first is going to be ahead. And I mean, you can just feel it. You can just feel it when when the momentum starts to happen.
But we've also seen players have momentum, do fantastic, and then something happened, and
Oh
then
yeah.
it switches on you, and then the other person's got the momentum and ends up winning the whole thing.
Yeah. And you're like, what the,
How did I lose that momentum? Yeah.
how did that happen? Yeah, absolutely. And I love that that story about the train, right? I mean that the train, so a train going 100 miles an hour can go through a brick wall, can go through a steel wall. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But if you have a train that is completely stopped, you can hold it there with a 1-inch block. I cannot believe that. That's like so crazy. I was like,
True.
what?
Yeah.
That is, I mean, momentum is huge. It is huge.
Yeah. Now, when you understand that analogy and bring it into real life here, so you have to understand that your problem is not the problem. So people will be like, okay, I got this train and there's this stupid 1-inch block in front of me here that's stopping me. It's not the 1-inch block that you should be focused on.
Right.
It's the fact that you don't have the momentum going.
Right.
Because if you had momentum, your problem is not your problem.
And the
Your
one
problem
inch
is you don't have
block,
momentum.
yeah, and the 1-inch block is whatever obstacle you think is holding you back.
And it's
Right.
always just something small that
Oh, of
you know
course.
everyone's hung up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And the analogy is so, so good. I love that leaders are not problem solvers. I was like, what? What are you talking about? How can that be? That doesn't make sense. But then they are momentum creators. And then I was like, because if you have momentum, you have way
You don't
less
have any problems.
right? Yeah. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
So I love this, and this is the real leadership lesson of the day here is that leaders are like thermostats; they control the temperature. So us as leaders, we have to control the energy. We are the ones that create the energy, the excitement, the momentum, the vision, the motivation. Now followers are like like thermometers. So they read the temperature and then that's the room's at 72, so I'm going to be at 72. And the energy's not at when the energy's at 100, they'll be at 100. But so they're not creating it; they're just reading it and following along at that level. So it's
Yeah.
our responsibility to get up to 100.
Yeah, as leaders, absolutely. And I love that though, Paul. I like that idea and just being aware that as a leader, that's what we have to do,
Yeah.
right?
And the way you do that is you ask your team 3 questions. You
Yep.
got to find out what's moving your team and how you can move them, in the direction you want. So what are the 3 key questions to ask your team, Cheryl?
Okay, well, the first one is what do you cry about? And I love that. That made me laugh. Okay, so what do you cry about is what we're really saying is what brings you pain. Like,
Yeah. So let's say, we talked to a lot of people about getting into business, starting their own business. And I'm like, well, what really, brings you pain? They're like, literally, Paul, I hate my boss so much that on Monday mornings I cry on the way to work because I the thought of going back there, and I'm stressed out all weekend thinking about Monday because I hate my job so much.
yeah, or I'm trying to escape all weekend so that I don't have to think about Monday. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's the first one. Number 2 is what do you sing about? And I love that. So what brings you joy? What brings you joy? And I'll tell you, Angelica singing brings me joy. She was singing on the way to school this morning and it was super cute. So I just had to throw that in there. So, but that's something that's very important so that the best way that you can help them along their journey. You have to know these questions, right? They have to be able to answer these questions for you. And Paul, what I've found a lot of times is they're like, well, I'm not sure, or I don't really know, or, well, kind of this, but not really. So I think getting clear on these 3 questions for everybody is so essential. And the last one I think is the hardest for people, right? And the last one is, what do you dream about? Like, how do you really want your future to look?
Yeah. But boy, if you can get them to answer that question,
Oh my gosh.
it's game over.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And get them dreaming again,
Oh.
right? I think we have all these dreams when we're kids. And then, of course, life hits you about 2,500 times. And pretty soon you start saying, well, I don't really need that. Well, I don't really need this. Well, it's okay if I don't have that. Well, that's okay for them, but not for me. And we start making up all of these excuses so that, and then it keeps us where we're at.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, no, you do deserve that. No, you do. Yes, 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 you can. Yes, we will. Right. And I just think, I think that I've met so many people that just have, I don't know, it kind of feels like they've given up. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, come
Yeah.
on.
I remember taking a speaker's course, like learn how to become a better speaker. And one of the key things they said was to use the word imagine as much as you can.
Oh, I love that.
Such a
I love
powerful
that.
word. So you can say, imagine blank, 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 blank. So you're painting like a picture to them.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that sounds unbelievable, you know, and so they can start imagining it in their mind and seeing a better future. And that's where the vision's painted and they're following the leader. As long as they bought into you, they'll buy into that vision then. And then magic will happen once you can paint that picture and they can see it clearly in their minds.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why you need to know all these things is because about the people on your team or even in your life is because what motivates people is what creates the momentum in them.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love understanding and because let me tell you, this is a perfect way to talk to your kids and find those things out and really find out what motivates them. Because I know a lot of times I talk to a lot of moms and they're struggling with their kids and what their kids are going through, especially as teenagers, I think. But if you become clear on these three things, what brings you pain, what brings you joy, and what on earth do you want your future to look like? I mean, I talk with my kids, they're 14, twins. I talk to them all the time about this because I think it's so important. So yes, it works in business, Paul, like you and I do with our teams, but it also can work with your kids, with your friends, really with any part of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. But what's so interesting, Cheryl, and we mostly work with leaders. So we're not working with, the followers out there. We're working like right now, this podcast is directed at leaders out there.
Right.
And it's so amazing. We talked about this before that 10 things happened today. Even the top leaders that we have always seem to find the one that went wrong, even though the other 9 went perfect. How are things going? Oh, not good. Really? What happened? This looks phenomenal, these numbers and everything. Well, this happened. Okay, well, what about these other 9 things that were fantastic? Oh,
it's easier to remember the bad things that happen than the good. And I think that's why we talk so much about when you get those little wins, celebrate.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you know what? Let me tell you something. For me, going to Orange Theory at 5:00 in the morning is not only a small win, Paul, it's a major celebration and win.
Jumping up and down.
Oh my gosh.
Got streamers going. Yeah, it's a big celebration.
Excited. Yeah, I'm telling you. It's just but you have to remember that, right? You have to remember those small wins as you go throughout your day, because if not, then yes, something negative that happens can overpower everything. One thing, small or big, it doesn't matter, but it always seems to overpower all the great stuff that happens.
And Cheryl, we've been talking about this for the past 2-3 years about rewiring your brain. I believe you can wire your brain to look at the good things, but you have to create and do the gratitude journal every morning. That's why we were like, the most important thing you can do during your morning. And by the way, next Tuesday, we're going to be going over the 6 things we do every single morning in our magic morning to tell you about that. So we're going to give you a sneak peek at that one of them is a gratitude journal, that we're writing down what we're grateful for, because we're looking for, boy, what am I grateful for? And some mornings, it's a little more difficult than others to think about something new that you're grateful for, because you got to think of something new all the time. But once you spend a minute or two, it's so easy to, oh yeah, that happened, and we should recognize that. But Cheryl, what's really changed my life over the past 2 or 3 years is this concept of I've got to create wins today. So I'm actually intentionally deciding at the beginning of the day, actually I try to do it the night before, one of my 3 wins going to be tomorrow? Or one of my 3 wins going to be today? And then I work all day and I get those 3 things done. Now, some days I get 1 or 2 of those things done, and then sometimes I get sidetracked, but it wasn't a bad sidetrack because I created another win anyways. that I get to add in. But the bottom line is at the end of the day, by 5 p.m., I better have three things I can point to that's a win.
Yeah.
That we're good. Now, when I do that every day, it doesn't seem like 3 wins. Who cares about that, Paul? It's not going to change your life. No. But I have 21 wins a week. And every month, I have 84 wins.
Yeah.
And every year, I have over 1,000 wins. 1,000 small wins I can point to that I'm super proud of.
That
You have
is super
1,000
cool.
wins, you're like, wait a second. Maybe I am something special. Maybe my life is good. Maybe things are heading in the right direction, and it's
Yeah.
pointing to the wins.
Well, and I love that you have only 3 a day, because to me, when I think of 3, I'm like, oh yeah, that's doable. I can get 3 wins a day. And I love what you said too, that you come up with what your wins are going to be. So you are saying you're not just hoping you get some. You're saying, no, these are the wins that I will have tomorrow.
Yeah. And let me listen. I'm Mr. Overachiever, and and we established that years ago. My favorite home was Overwhelm, so I was consistently telling myself I have to have 30 wins today. I have to have 30 wins today, and I wouldn't get any because I was so overwhelmed thinking about getting 30 wins. But people would say, "Well, you got to focus on 3." I mean, people were telling me this, 10, 20 years now.
Sure.
I'm like, that's the worst advice ever. 3 wins, where's that going to get you? But I didn't understand this law of momentum and that.
No.
Holy cow! Wait a second. What if I get 1,000 wins a year, 3 a day? That's going to change the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now that I'm focused on that, Cheryl, everything is just fantastic. Like it really is. I literally rewired my brain to look for good things all the time. I don't even. People say bad things happen. I'm like, I don't even realize that because I'm not looking for that anymore. I'm focused on the wins. And if I'm not winning, I'm learning. So what did I learn? And I love to learn. So if the only 2 things that happen in my life is either I'm winning or I'm learning, no wonder my life's fantastic. Because those are the 2 things I love the most.
I like to win. I'd rather win.
Yeah, but you can't. Here's the thing, though. We both know this. You can't win
every
until
time
you have some learns.
I know, but I still like to. I have hope, Paul. I have hope.
You have a lot of hope.
That's right. Yeah. So I love this whole idea. And Paul, you have to tell us a little bit. Well, okay, first, I love this. I love this whole idea. He's like, we're talking about, John Maxwell, and he said, hey, listen, if you don't have momentum, that's the time to take a break.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, really? Because I always have thought that I'll work really hard, get momentum going, and then take a break. But he says, no. Don't do that. Work harder when you have momentum. And if you don't have momentum, then now's the time to take a little break.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of what we all do.
Yeah, it really is.
So interesting. And we, so we have a couple analogies. So last week or 2 weeks ago, we went over an analogy of a penny doubled every day for a month. So if you have 1 penny on day 1 and you go through the math, 30 days later, you have $5.3 million. Yeah. It's just unbelievable. Like you would never think that it would be that high. But we also pointed out that a penny doubled every other day in a month is only $164. So you can see how you got to get the momentum.
Wow.
And we're going to talk about a second here about plane taking off. If you're like, well, I'm going to go maybe 25 miles an hour or 100 miles an hour, and then I'm going to hit the brake for a little bit, and then I'm going to go again. Like, you'll never get that plane off the ground. Right. You got to go full throttle, pedal to the metal, no brake, no nothing. You got to go, and that's the only way you're going to create the momentum. If you're going and braking and going and braking every other day, you'll never make it. Never. And there's a great movie out. I highly recommend everybody watch it if you haven't already, called Money Game. And it's basically this movie about the Oakland A's that they put together this team of really of nobodies. They have 9 guys that no one ever's even really heard of. But statistically speaking, they would win every single game because of their on-base percentage.
But so it had nothing to do with how many home runs they could hit.
Nope.
It had nothing to do with anything other than each of them were great at getting on base.
Yeah, and it didn't matter if they got on base by getting hit by the ball or walking or however, bunting, whatever it was. It didn't matter. What is your on-base percentage?
Right.
So everyone ridiculed them. They're like, this is the stupidest idea ever. The whole staff quit because these guys were like professional scouts. They had 30 scouts on the team that would go out and watch these college baseball teams. And they're like, oh, this guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. And it was all based on like instinct, like, oh, I got the instinct to find the right guy. Listen, this is not the way to play the game, is on instinct. So they came,
and that's not the way to manage your business either.
Yeah, or your life, yeah.
Yeah.
So they have a spreadsheet they came out with that, statistically speaking, this team would be fantastic. So in the beginning of the season, they're horrible. I mean, they go like 0-10, like, and then everyone's like, "See, I told you, this is the worst idea ever. You guys are stupid." But then, and they're like, so the owner goes back to the general manager and says, "Hey, this isn't working," and he's like, "Listen, we simply don't have enough time in yet." So it's just like flipping a quarter. So if you flip a quarter, of course, you got a 50% chance of getting heads or tails, but you could go 0-10 and get all tails for the first 10. But if you flip it 1,000 times, you're going to get 500 and 500.
Yeah, at some point.
So they end up winning, the long story short, they end up winning 21 games in a row, which is more than any team in history has ever won. And, they won the division and everything coming from last place. So it's a great story. So the whole thing is to stop looking at the results you're getting now is the whole key. And to focus on the habits. What habits do I need to do? What things do I need to do today that are part of my routine, what I do? And if you do those things, you will be successful. You'll end up winning.
Yeah, it's focus on the process, right? Which that's always been kind of hard for me, Paul. Let's just be real honest. But I understand the importance of it, right? And if we can know and be aware that we need to focus on the process, and I mean, then you will be able to get the result that you want, right? The result that you're going for. And I'm telling you, Paul, I mean, I work with so many people, and it's like, hey, listen, I've let's just say I've called 4 people and they all said no. And, this just is not working. And I love what you said when you and I were talking about this earlier. You're like, well, call me back when you've called 4,000 people. Okay.
Exactly.
Because, and I think that that's absolutely right, that you just have to, and I think that's why it's so important when people say never give up, because at the start, for everything, when you're starting anything brand new and you're not sure what you're doing or how you're doing it, I think that it is really hard. And I think that that's when you need to decide to concentrate on the process and not worry about the results you're getting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing we do, we have tons of weight loss clients, you and I, and we see this in weight loss all the time, where we know that if you exercise every day, drink water, take your supplements, and eat right, follow the diet, you're going to lose weight. Now, people do it for a week and they call us back and they say, this isn't working. I only lost 4 pounds. I should have lost 15 by now. Like this, it's been 1 week. Yeah. Maybe they didn't lose any. Who knows? But if you do those 4 things for a year, 5 years, how are you going to look in 10 years if you did those 4 things every day consistently?
Yeah.
You're going to look unbelievable. You're going to be you're going to be in the most phenomenal shape ever. So it's you got to stop looking at the results you're getting now and focus on fall in love with being the type of person that works out every day, the type of person that drinks their water, takes their supplements, follows a diet, just the people, I know we've developed into those people, the kind of people that having something bad to eat just doesn't even cross our mind, because it's just something that we just have slowly but surely over time associated pain to. And when you get to that level, you just see momentum and you see success at a whole new level, because it's just who you are. It's changing our identity.
Yeah. And I think by doing that, it just makes it easier to accomplish what you have, accomplish the result that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about success loves speed, Cheryl. What does that mean?
Well, you talked a little bit about it earlier with the plane. So it has to be full throttle, all out, down the runway when you start.
Yeah.
And, you've got to build up that Speed. You've got to build it up, because there's no way that you're going to get anything off the ground, a plane or anything else, without that, the speed at the very start. Like, you've got to give it all you've got, right? That's really what it's about.
Yeah. And as many of you may know, me and my wife, we own a restaurant franchise, and franchise out to people, and people come and buy franchises from us, and we're like, well, it's going to take you 5 years to get momentum up.
Yeah.
You got a new location and stuff, so it's like 5 years of like super hard struggle, no money, no nothing, losing money really. But then the rest of your life is golden, but you got to get past those first 5 years, and so it's not 5 days.
No.
It's you have to give it time for this to kick in, and but again, Cheryl, when momentum's on your side and it's going, there ain't nothing better.
Nothing like it. That's absolutely right. Yep.
So what's our homework, Cheryl?
Well, we do have a little bit of homework, don't we? So we know that momentum begins inside the leader and spreads from there. So it's about you, right? It's about you taking the responsibility for creating the momentum on your team. So I think the first thing is kind of looking at that and deciding, hey, what do I need to do to increase momentum or get my whole team into momentum? And I love this. Eleanor Doan, she observed that you cannot kindle a fire in any other heart until it is burning within your own. And that is so important to know, right? To become aware of, and then really decide how it is that you are going to start spreading momentum or creating momentum on your team. So that's the first thing. Do you have it? Right? Do you have momentum on your team? And if not, what's the process of you getting it for you and in your heart, and then being able to take that to your team?
Absolutely. So, John also talks about your passion. How much passion do you have for your vision? Like you just mentioned, we have down here in the notes that, do you work to motivate others even when you don't feel like it? So I take pride. We just had the last podcast we did that I take pride. My number one thing that I care about is my state, my attitude.
Yep.
That I'm not going to come today to, spend time with you or anybody else in a state where I don't really feel like being here today. Like I show up 365. I just program myself to be that kind of person. But Cheryl, the really tough question to ask yourself right now, and what the audience has to do, is look at their team, look at their organization. First of all, realize you are the leader. So too many people, they're like, well, that person's not doing it, or that person, no, doesn't matter. It's you. You're the one in charge of this whole thing because you're the leader.
Yep.
So where are you and your team at right now on a scale from 1 to 10? And a lot of people, most of our listeners are going to say 2 right now. It's just a lot of people, a lot of teams they got good things happening, but do you really have momentum where it's just cranking? Most people would say no. So this is going to be one that I'm sure a lot of people are going to score low on, but we now know how to change that around and really to focus on those smaller wins.
Yep.
What are some books that people can read, Cheryl, that'll get them going?
Okay, so the first one is Developing the Leader Within You, because you are the leader. So if you don't feel like you're strong in that area, or you're just learning, or just becoming a leader, that's a perfect book. And then also the 360 degree leader. So those 2 are fantastic books.
Absolutely. And so this is chapter 16 in the book. We've been reading on the 21 Laws of Leadership. The notes again are at elevateyourlife.com. You can get all these notes that we just went over. And next week, Cheryl, on Leadership Thursday, we're going to be talking about chapter 17, the law of priorities.
Oh, no, not the law of priorities.
Another good one. Yeah.
It is. It'll be fantastic. And I love it because it really does. It really makes you look at what your priorities are and making sure that those are correct, or in the correct order. Now, Paul, I love what John Maxwell says, and and I really believe that that our +1 today, and I love to have every +1 that we have. I love them, but momentum solves 80% of your problems.
Yeah, it does. And it's, again, your problem is not your problem. The problem is you have no momentum. So you got to create that. So to elevate your life, Cheryl,
Yeah.
you got to focus on creating momentum.
Yep. And as you do that, you can move from fine to fabulous.
Yes, you can. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend. We will see you next week when we talk about the magic morning and our 6 things that we do every morning to get our day started off on the right foot.
Yes. Change your life.
Have a great day, everyone.